Once every couple of years, a study comes along that suggests that pursuing happiness actually makes people less happy. It's a compelling headline, it tends to garner a lot of media coverage, and it's also a fairly well-validated finding at this point. These studies can lead to a lot of confusion, and the reporting on them doesn't always communicate the wholeness of the issues involved very well. In this video, I'm going to answer the question, should you try to be happy? Let's get started. One prominent researcher in this area is Iris Moss, a professor of psychology at UC Berkeley who focuses her research on emotion and emotional regulation. One of her key findings related to this conversation is the paradoxical nature of happiness. Happiness is a key ingredient of well-being, so it's reasonable to expect that valuing happiness will increase our well-being, right? But her research found that valuing happiness could be self-defeating, because the more people valued happiness, the more likely it was that they felt disappointed. Let's take a step back for a moment and consider two different categories of goals. The first category are outcome goals. These are the final things we want to achieve. And then the second category are process goals. These are goals that contribute to outcome goals. Critically, they must be entirely under a person's control. To use a really generic example, an outcome goal might be getting promoted at work. A related process goal could be working diligently every day. A person generally can't control if they'll be promoted, but they can usually control their own effort. Most people tend to focus on outcomes rather than processes, but process goals tend to contribute to success more than outcome goals do. This makes sense because process goals are essentially the steps along the path to achieving a given outcome goal. It's generally good to have a mix of these two types of goals because knowing where you want to go makes it easier to get there. So let's apply this to happiness, right? Happiness is an outcome goal, a final thing that we want to achieve that we don't have total control over. Now, there are a lot of processes that might lead to happiness that we can exert some influence over. We can work on improving our internal psychological climate so that when the bad weather comes along, it's not as disruptive. We can work to create external causes and conditions that support our happiness. We can build strong relationships, both as sources of happiness themselves and as sources of support when times are less than ideal. But a critical point here is that we truly can't control our happiness. We can't control the genetics we were born with, and research has consistently shown that your genes play a big role in inclining you toward or away from happiness. We can't control the circumstances we're born into that may make happiness easier or more difficult to achieve. And even if we behave perfectly, we can't always control the day-to-day events that play a large role in our moment-to-moment experience of happiness. A line I heard a long time ago that stuck with me is the fastest way to drive someone insane is to hold them responsible for results they don't control. And it's no wonder to me that if happiness alone is explicitly somebody's focus, they're probably going to be disappointed and therefore less than happy a lot of the time. Same thing goes for attempting to excessively control moments of anxiety, sadness, and other painful experiences. These experiences are a natural part of life too. Psychologist Adam Grant makes essentially the same point in his review of the research on pursuing happiness. He says that in Obliquity, John Kay argues that the best things in life can only be pursued indirectly. I believe this is true for happiness. If you truly want to experience joy or meaning, you need to shift your attention away from joy or meaning and toward projects and relationships that bring joy and meaning as byproducts. Now, there's a key distinction here. Adam Grant is making an argument not for not caring about happiness, but rather for focusing on the process goals rather than the outcome goal of happiness. And I'm inclined to argue personally that having happiness as an eventual outcome goal is a good thing, because it makes it more likely that you'll pursue the process goals that tend to create more of it. Bottom line, fixating on happiness probably won't get you where you want to go. But when we aim high, we often raise the floor on what's possible for us, even if we don't quite reach the ceiling all the time. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out. Until next time, thanks for watching.